What is going on, everybody? And welcome back to the first Thursday afternoon show. I am your host, Josh Weasley. Not really a Weasley, but look, this is like extreme ginger. Last night was interesting. Montembeault went full Ben Scrivens. Let me kick it to Cliffy real quick to see if my internet will tamper in and out. What's going on?
Yeah, not a whole lot. Fun slate last night. As long as you stacked Vegas, 3 teams got shut out last night. 40, I think it was ended up a 48 save shutout for Montembeault. Leafs top line had 16 shots on goal, didn't score once. Montreal only got the 1 goal, so that was kind of the thing. Is like, Montreal got the win. That's nice. Montembeault was really the only useful player out of the game. Like, some guys had decent shot and block totals and things like that, but it was really Montembeault or bust. Your Rangers beat the holy hell out of Pittsburgh 6-0. Was a 29 save shutout for Shesterkin, 2 goals for Kreider. Yeah. Hedl got a goal. Lafreniere got a goal. Real nice goal too. So there wasn't, Zibanejad didn't do a ton. I think Riley Smith had an assist or something like that. Like, the full stacks didn't get there, but if you won off some of their players, certainly was a good night. If you had Shesterkin, was certainly a good night. Jacob Trouba had a really good night. It was 2 assists, 4 shots, and 5 blocks or something like that for Jacob Trouba. Yeah. So, yeah, good night for the Rangers. Edmonton got shut out by Connor Hellebuck at home. Good start to the season for the Oilers. I'm not that worried about the Oilers. 0-0. Yeah, I'm not 0-0. I'm not super concerned about the Oilers long term. I think that game kind of says a little bit more about Winnipeg. Like, Winnipeg's second and third lines, they came to play. You got to give them that. Vancouver blew a 4-1 lead.
That's classic Vancouver.
To Calgary. Calgary scored, 3 goals in the third period, 3 or 4 goals to get it to overtime. And then they won 6-5 in overtime. Listen, I didn't watch the whole game. I watched the first 2 periods. So obviously I missed all the fireworks in the third. Shelov's looked like sheet. I don't know how else to say it. If you go look at the goals, he's not tracking the puck well, out of position, kind of guessing. And to a certain extent, you have to guess where NHL players are shooting, but he was guessing. He didn't look great. Certainly, Pospisil, goal and assist, I think. Mantha, same thing, including a shorty. So good night for Calgary 3. But, of course, it was Vegas that did all the damage. Ivan Barbashev ended up on the top line. Ivan Barbashev had 2 goals and 2 assists. Good stuff. Jack Eichel, 4 assists. Mark Stone, a 3-point game. You needed Vegas 1 last night. Should throw out a congratulations. We did have a Stochastic subscriber take down 25K last night. Used Vegas 1 plus Vegas power play. He had Olofsson. Had a 1-off Daniel Sprong, and then had Kadri and Mackenzie Weegar too. Man, Weegar had a really good game as well. So, and Montembeault and net. So a really good game. Congrats on the 25K. Let's hope we can do some winning tonight, because there are some really good games on this 9-gamer.
Yes, and if you missed out on the 5 days for $1 promo, tough luck. But if you did miss it and you do want to sign up, click the link in the chat. And if you're looking for a little discount code, you can slide into my DMs. How you doing? Watch out for feet pics, but I can get you a code for a little bit off. Just slide into my DMs either in Discord or on Twitter. If you are looking to sign up, it will be the regular price. I can get you a discount code. So just show me that you're going through our link, and I'll give you the code. Now, contests are back to what they were exactly last year. I was a little tilted about that last night. And then Jake, our boss, Jake Hari, was like, yeah, but there's NFL Showdown tomorrow. I was like, I'm an idiot. I don't even know what day it is. So that makes sense. He also just told us that ownership is running. We should have a new run up in the next minute or two, which is nice. So we'll have fresh data to spit at you. 9-gamer, first like medium-sized slate. I guess you could call yesterday a medium-sized slate. I think like 6 is really the threshold for medium. 5's kind of short. There's not many. Like last night, there was one path to victory. You either had Vegas won or you didn't. Like tonight, you hope that there's multiple ways to get to the top. So I like this slate. Unfortunately, a lot of these teams are starting back-to-back. It is October 10th, and they are professional. It doesn't matter if they're 177 years old. They should be fresh here tonight. But I do like this slate. There are some chalky spots. There's a lot of spots going overlooked. So hopefully we can get you the primo info and you win some money.
Yeah, let's get to these games because I'm excited to break down the Los Angeles Kings roster. This is already, we're off to a great start.
Yeah, rip roaring to the Kings here. Los Angeles Kings with a 3 total heading into Buffalo. The Sabres also have a 3 total. JJ Peterka is out. He got a concussion in Prague, but he has been practicing. He just has not been cleared yet. It looks like Zach Benson is going to be a game time decision. Kings going with Kempe, Kopitar, Laferriere, Fiala, Fogle, Quentin Byfield, and then Trevor Moore, Phil Deneau, Tanner Jeannot. The Buffalo lines are fairly unknown. I don't know what they're going to do in Peterka's spot. I think it kind of depends on if Benson plays. I have a uneasy feeling that Jason Zucker will end up there.
Well, I think the first practice, as soon as they got back, it was actually Peyton Krebs on the top line with Tuck and Thompson. That would allow them to put Cooley on the second line and then put Benson on the third. But like that's just guessing. Like it all depends on whether Benson plays or not, and we won't find that out until warmups.
Yeah. And I kind of like Buffalo 1 here. I know they're coming back from Europe. I just, Drew Doughty's out, and maybe that actually helps them defensively. Like, I don't know. Like, he's one of those guys where, like, if he wasn't making a GDP of a third world country, he probably wouldn't be on the top pair anymore. But he's out, obviously. I do want to wait and see who is on that top line. And also they practice Alex Tuck on the second power play unit. I don't know if they reverted back to him being on the top unit. But the Kings generally had a bad penalty kill last year. So I do have some interest in Buffalo 1. It does wane without Peterka. If Peterka was there at 17-2, I'd be very excited about it, but he's not. So I have to wait and see. And then after that, it's kind of hard to be like, oh, yeah, this is what I want to do because we just don't know the lines. The Kings side is interesting because I don't know if you watched the preseason, but our boy Quentin Byfield absolutely nuked the Bruins NHL team for a hat trick. It was disgusting. He is just, his first push off his skates is so explosive. Unfortunately, they're coming in with negative leverage. Not a ton, like a 13,000 line. You're going to expect to have some negative leverage, 8% projected ownership. I didn't refresh, so that might be a little bit different. But so for that reason, I am very interested in Kempe, Kopitar, Laferriere coming in around 3% at 15.9. They're fully correlated. 15.9 and 3% for a fully correlated line. Kempe is my boy. Kopitar is what he is. You know what I mean? Like, he's not one of those guys who's going to kill you in DFS. If that line has a great night, he'll have like 2 assists and 2 shots on goal, and that's all he really needs. You just need Laferriere to hit the score sheet once, and you need Kempe to do the heavy lifting. which is certainly possible. So I do like that Kings top line. I do like Buffalo in a nutshell. It's just there's question marks on the lines.
Yeah, I'll just say I don't really like the Sabres here. One of the reasons is this: their top power play has Dahlin and Power on the blue line, and then Thompson, Cousins, and Zucker. So one forward from each of the top three lines is on the top power play unit, and then two defensemen. Like that's just not appealing to me. Like the Kings, they didn't allow a ton of goals on the PK last year, but if you go and look at why, it was because they had a .908 save percentage on the penalty kill. No other team in the league was over .890. I think the league average was like .863. Like .908 is just not repeatable. It just is not. I think there's been like one goalie in the last 15 years that's been able to repeat anything close to that. I think it was Marc-Andre Fleury at his peak. No, and they've changed goalies, obviously. It's Darcy Kemper there this year, so it's not even the same goalie. Like, I think the Kings penalty kill is going to fall off a little bit. So I think for Buffalo, this is a spot where I don't mind one-offs, right? Because Owen Power is on the top power play unit, it gives him a little bit more value than he otherwise would have had. And, Owen Power is only 4K. Like, I think that's perfectly fine, especially like in the two games in Europe, he averaged more per game than Rasmus Dahlin. It was only like 20 seconds, but it was more per game. Give him power play time, he could end up with the most ice time of any Buffalo defenseman. So like a one-off Owen Power, a one-off Jason Zucker, those types of things I think are where I'm at on Buffalo. I just have no interest in stacking when you have one forward from each of the top three lines on the power play. Like that's just not something I do. And even if the Kings penalty kill does fall off, which I think it will, they're pretty good defensively at 5-on-5, as long as Kemper doesn't fall apart. So one-offs are nothing for me from Buffalo. On the Kings side, I think I agree with you on Kempe, Kopitar, Laferriere. If I were to stack from the Kings, that's probably the line I would stack. And it is because they're perfectly correlated on the top power play unit. I don't know how long Laferriere is actually going to last on the power play. It wouldn't surprise me if he's there like 2 games and then he's gone and they move Byfield back up. But as long as he's there, that brings value. They're only 15,900. They have a little bit of positive leverage, 3.4% top 2 stack, 3.2% ownership. The problem with the Byfield line is kind of a sister problem to what Buffalo has, right? It's the way that Los Angeles is splitting up that line on the power play units. Kevin Fiala is on power play 1, Quentin Byfield and Warren Fogle are on power play 2. So like I don't mind like if you want a one-off Warren Fogle, want a one-off Quentin Byfield, I think that's perfectly acceptable. I have no issue with that. But if I were to stack anything in this game, it's probably the Kings top line.
Yeah, we agree on that. I'm a Kempe slappy. I love Adrian Kempe. For what reason? I don't know. Let's talk about your Habs. With a 2.4 total heading into Boston. Original 6 rivalry. I can't say that word. I don't know what it is. 38 and a half years old. I cannot say rivalry. There we go. Jeremy Swayman in net. No camp, just right into action. I guess that's kind of necessary because we all saw what Korpisalo did the other night. Was not good. Montreal on the heels of a 48-save shutout from Sam Montembeault. Looks like Caden Primo will be in net. I like Caden Primo too. I like the Habs goalies. I don't know. I do. That being said, Montreal back-to-back on the road. I know it's early, and I know he said they'll be fresh, but that doesn't change the fact that they are not good defensively. They don't have a good penalty kill, and it's Primo and not Montembeault in net. It's not a huge drop-off, I don't think, but it's still the backup. You know what I mean? That puts Boston 1 in play for me, unfortunately, because I'm not an Elias Lindholm guy. I'm not really a Boston guy in general since Bergeron retired. That being said, they're fully correlated. I think Zaka on the wing benefits that line more than Zaka at center. Pasternak's Pasternak. I think Pasternak can carry Lindholm to a decent DFS season. Whether it's actually good or not, I'll let the pundits decide. I do like Boston 1 here, fully correlated. Boston 2, again, it's the same issue. And on top of that, it's the same issue. There's Martian on power play 1, Coyle on power play 2. And on top of that, Cliff, you mentioned yesterday that he thinks Kirby Dach is going to be the best defensive line that the Habs have. I'm out on Boston 2. It would be Boston 1 for me. On the Montreal side, I don't have a ton of interest in Montreal here tonight. Now, I will say if I was building 150 in the 15, I would have some Montreal 1 just from the fact that like Swayman hasn't played at all since the playoffs, and he could be rusty. So that would be the reason for me to play Montreal 1. They're coming in at 1.4% projected ownership. It would not take much to get over the field there. I would take a couple stabs just for the fact that he could look like crap. So it's hard to know. He could come out and have a shutout. You just don't know. But I'm willing to take a chance in MME that he might look bad. But this is a Boston 1 game for me.
Yeah, I agree with you on Boston 1. In fact, I wrote them up in the picks article today. Free to read Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday for now over at Stokastic.com. Wrote up the Zaka Lindholm Pasternak line as one of the lines that I was looking into. Let's face it, Montreal didn't really look that good last night. The top line, Slafkovsky, Suzuki, and Caulfield, they were on the ice for 29 shot attempts against at 5-on-5 in like 11 minutes of ice time. There will be teams that will play full games this year and not allow that many shot attempts against. That line got ran over, like plain and simple. Now, you're not going to read a whole lot into one game, but it's something that speaks to what we talked about on the show yesterday, is that Montreal top line, their benefit is offensive. It's not defensive. They're not a good defensive line. You know what I mean? So I do think Boston top line has the advantage here. In the first game, the Boston top line, they got 2 goals. Pasternak got a late power play goal. Elias Lindholm got a goal. The line combined for 10 shots. They all played between 19 and a half and 20 and a half minutes. So they're heavily, heavily used. The Montreal penalty kill, I'll give it to them. That was the one aspect of the play that did look good last night, was the power play and penalty kill. So whether Boston can overcome that, we'll see. But Boston is perfectly correlated with their top line. They're one of the highest top 2 stacks of the night over at Stokastic top stacks tool. Coming in second place. Now, of course, they're carrying some ownership because they're under 20K, but I think Boston 1 is extremely playable here. I don't have a lot of interest in Boston 2. I agree with you. The Boston depth, of all the lines that I thought looked bad, the Boston third line, holy God, they got ran over by that Florida third line.
That Florida third line is so good.
Yeah, on Tuesday. Yeah, it shouldn't happen against Montreal, but I thought, Alex Barry-Boulette kind of looked fine. Josh Anderson didn't look good. I shouldn't go that far, but at least I was
okay.
Yeah. So it's Boston 1 for me. I really do like them. They're one of my favorite lines on the slate tonight. I don't hate the idea of going to Montreal 1. I think I kind of agree with you, though. It'd be more something like if I was 20 maxing tonight, I'd have 1 or 2 Montreal. I don't know if I would. If this was a 5-game slate like last night, I think they'd be in a lot more consideration for me. Where there's 18 teams playing, I don't feel the need to force it. But Caulfield had 2 points in 4 games against them last year. Suzuki had 4 points in 4 games against them last year. They can be had. This is not the Patrice Bergerons, Zdeno Chara, Boston Bruins of 6-7 years ago or whatever. They're not a great defensive team, but in that price range, I just think there are other lines that I like that aren't on the road back to back. So I think for me, it's Boston 1 that game in this that I like best in this game. I think Montreal 1 is playable, but I certainly would rather play Boston here tonight.
Yeah, agreed. I'd also, if I was ever running the Boston Marathon and I saw Zdeno Chara barreling down at me, I just quit. because that is a large human being running very fast at you. But we made it 3 days and 20 minutes into the show before we really bash somebody. That's changing in this game. Florida Panthers with a 3.4 total heading into Ottawa. Senators have a 3 total. New coach in Ottawa, Travis Green. Not sure why they hired Travis Green when there are better names on the board so early. I'll let Quick Party answer that. I'm sure he is fired up about it. But Ottawa going Brady Tkachuk, Timmy Stützle, Claude Giroux, Drake Batherson, Ridley Greig, our boy Josh Norris, and then Pinto, Perron, Amadio on the third line. Florida status quo from the other night, Reinhart, Barkov, Verhaeghe, Tkachuk, Bennett, Rodriguez. And then Lundell, Luosterainen on the third line. Now, the issue that I'm running into in this game is kind of twofold. One, Florida is very expensive again. $22,400. They're the most expensive on the board. They're not getting any ownership, though. I wish their top 2 stack was a little bit higher, but they have over 10% positive leverage. I don't necessarily know what Travis Green is going to do in terms of line matching, but I will say this. Stützle, Tkachuk, Giroux, at best, trading chances. Josh Norris centering a top 6 line, at best, sucks. There was like a couple month stretch before he got hurt. The reason they were so bad was because Josh Norris could not win a faceoff, and they were hemmed in their own zone because he sucks. He is a good shooter, and he's going to be good on that power play. But a second-line center, he should not be. It should be Greig. It should be Pinto, and he should be on the wing. Now, you send out Barkov against Stützle. That's advantage Barkov all day. Like, yeah, that Brady Tkachuk, Stützle, Giroux line, very, very good offensively. But at best, they're trading chances. So I do really, really like Florida 1 here. Florida 2, if you watched us at all last season while Norris was healthy, you'll know that he just struggles as a center. It doesn't really – I don't know. I know they're trying to make it work, but he should be on the wing. I do also like Florida 2 here. I just, they're coming in at similar ownership. At that point, I'm just going to fully correlated Florida 1. You want to go to Florida 3 as a filler. If you're looking at power play stacks, some big boys, I think that is fine as well. The Ottawa side is a little bit more interesting. Not really. They do have a 3 total, though. But, if they do send Stützle out against Barkov, that line's just a meat grinder. I don't want to go stacking against Barkov when you're at home. That literally doesn't make sense. But they're not going to send Norris out against them. And the line you want to take advantage of defensively on Florida is Tkachuk, Bennett, Rodriguez. But the line probably going against them is a Josh Norris-centered line, unless for some reason they put him on the wing and they have Greig at center. But I like Drake Batherson. I like Ridley Greig. I like Norris's role on the power play. I just don't think they're good enough in the dot to control play. So I want to play Pinto, Perron, Amadio as a filler, but that Lundell, Luosterainen line is so good. So really, Ottawa's more of an MME play for me, and the only one I'd consider in 1 to 3 in this game is probably just Florida 1.
Yeah, I'll start on the Florida side. I think one of the reasons why you'd want to play Florida is the top line is perfectly correlated, right? It's pretty important going up against the Ottawa Senators to have that perfect correlation because the Ottawa Senators penalty kill is bad. One of my projects over the summer is I went back and watched every single short power play goal scored against the Ottawa Senators last year. And a lot of times you just have to give it up to the opposition. But I'm here to tell you that I'd say 1 out of 5 goals against was allowed by absolute stupidity. I'm talking they flip the puck out to the neutral zone. The opposition is reloading to re-enter the zone and they go change. You know what I mean? And it ends up like a 4-on-2 or a 4-on-1. there must have been about a half dozen goals that were scored like that. And they're running back largely the same roster as last year. So unless this coach gets through to this group more than the last two coaches have, I don't know why the penalty kill would really get a whole lot better. So I don't mind Florida too. I think I would want as much of the top. If I'm playing Florida, I want as much of the top power play as I can get here tonight. So that's Reinhart, Barkov, and Verhaeghe. You're right. They are expensive, but they are coming with a lot of leverage because there's almost no ownership on them due to that price. And the thing is like, yes, they are very expensive, but listen, we have San Jose, we have Columbus, we have, I guess, Utah to an extent, depending on which line you use. We have Kings. Like, there are 11 to 12K lines that you can play here tonight. I do like Florida 1. I'm not worried about the 5-on-5 matchup. You talk about trading chances. The Ottawa top line last year, 3.8 expected goals for, 3.1 against per 60 minutes. Like, they do create a lot. They also do allow a lot. And, maybe having like a healthy Sanderson and a healthy Artem Zub helps them defensively. One of those things where I kind of have to see it before I believe it, because I'm not just going to assume Ottawa is going to be better defensively after what they've given us for like 5 years now. So I do like Florida 1 here. Again, I want as much of the top power play. If you want to drop down to Florida 2 for pricing concerns or whatever, it's not going to be a bad matchup. Like that middle six for the Sens is not going to be good defensively. I can tell you that much. I don't mind that, but I do want as much of the power play just because I want Ottawa to prove to me that they don't have a bad penalty kill before I start believing that they don't have a bad penalty kill. On the Senators side, I don't mind this spot for Ottawa 1. But honestly, at their price, there are just other spots that I think I would rather go. Like we just talked about Boston 1. Like, yes, Boston 1's going to be a lot higher owned. They're just also in a way, way, way better spot. We'll talk about Nashville later. Nashville certainly in play. We'll talk about Detroit later. Like, Detroit's certainly in play. Like, there's just a lot of other lines in that 17 to 20K range on DraftKings that I think I would rather play than going up against a Florida team that is just really, really good defensively. I'm not going to say don't play Ottawa because that top line is good. 3.3 goals per 60 minutes in their time together last year. I just want them. I just don't think it's necessarily a great spot to do it. I think I agree with you. It's more of an MME. If I was 20 maxing, I would be considering Ottawa 1. If it was 150, obviously I would be considering Ottawa 1 in a single entry. I think for me in this game is Florida 1 or just move along.
Yeah. Notice you didn't pile on Josh Norris there.
Well, okay. Here's what I'll say about Norris is that the argument can be made he's been playing largely either injured or recovering from injury for like a year and a half. And that's fair. But even back in the 21-22 season when he scored 36 goals or whatever it was, his value to the team, his wins above replacement or whatever, as according to HockeyViz, was like a low-end second liner, high-end third liner. Like the absolute best Josh Norris has looked in his NHL career, he would have been a third line player on a good team. And so now you have to assume he's healthy. You have to assume he's better, and you have to assume that he's going to mesh well with his teammates against the defending Stanley Cup champions that just waxed the Boston Bruins. Like it just feels like a lot to ask. Like, he's cheap enough. He's 3,500. All he needs to do is pop 1 on the power play, and you're laughing. So that's not a big deal. It's not like he's 6K. But I need Ottawa to prove to me that they're a better team than they've shown for half a decade now.
A very political response there from Cliffy. Let's move on. Toronto Maple Leafs with a 3 total heading into Newark, New Jersey. Not ideal, Bob. The Devils have a 3.5 total. Stellaris went last night. Wolves on IR. I don't know if they go back to Stellaris again tonight or they start Hildeby. Is it Hildeby? Yeah, it's Hildeby.
Yeah.
Where's Marty, baby? Where's Marty when you need him? No. But, yeah. This isn't an ideal back-to-back on the road matchup. like, yeah, the Devils were bad last year, but it was mostly because their best defensemen were hurt. Jack Hughes was hurt for a while. Siegenthaler was hurt. Dougie was hurt. Devils are healthy for the most part. Their blue line is good. They have a goalie. They have a new coach. They're still getting ownership, or Toronto's still getting ownership here tonight. I get it. Like, you want to go to Matthews, Marner, Nyes at 18-8. Again, we talked about it yesterday. When that line's cooking, and they will cook, they'll be over 20,000 in a blink of an eye. So in that sense, I think they're a good play. I don't particularly love the matchup back-to-back on the road against Markstrom. They're going to see a bunch of Siegenthaler, a bunch of Dougie. It's not ideal. It is Matthews and Marner. They are underpriced. I think a lot of people got burned by them last night. So, yeah, the projected ownership is 8%. I think it comes in a little bit lower. I'm fine going back there. You want to go to Nylander one-off, Tavares one-off, sure. But, like, the Devils, when healthy, have a very good penalty kill. So I'm not in love with the Leafs here tonight. I do like the Devils. You want to go to the Nico Hischier line, fine. They're 12-4. They're a decent filler. You get Hischier on the top power play unit. But for me, it's Hughes, Bratt, Timo Meier. They're cheaper than Florida 1. They have almost double top 2 stack percentage. They are getting a lot more ownership at 14% projected. But at when they're cooking or when they're humming, that's an elite line. Fully correlated. Leafs penalty kill sucks. Could be their third string goalie. Their blue line. Look, Montreal didn't look good last night. The Devils will test that blue line. I'm in on the Devils top line. Not so much in on Toronto. Again, that's more of an MME type deal. New Jersey 1, I will consider in my single entry.
Before we go too much further, just want to shout out CPS DFS. Gave us the $20 super chat. Really appreciate that. Thank you for that. He says took second in the 88 for 1K. Thanks to VGK1 and Van PP. Again, thanks for all your content. Looking forward to a good season with you guys. Congratulations on getting it on Vegas. They certainly helped a lot of people last night. Glad they helped you. Let's hope we can do that a lot more this season. Congrats on the hit. And, hey, let's try to run it back here tonight.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot about you there because I was bashing Josh Norris. Could have been bashing you, but you won a lot more money than I did. So congrats to you. You're always sending us winning stuff, so you're a consistent player. So hopefully it's another good season for you. Roll Tide.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, the New Jersey top line, they played those 2 games in Europe, played against Buffalo. In 22 minutes together, 5-on-5, the New Jersey Devils landed 17 shots on net. If you work that out to a per 60-minute rate, it's about 45 shots. That's an obscene rate. They looked really good. I watched both of those games. They looked really, really good in those games. I wrote about Timo Meier in the picks article today. Now, Jack Hughes didn't play a ton of ice time. They beat the piss out of Buffalo in the first game, so you didn't really need to in that one. But what I wrote about Timo Meier is that he averaged 18.48 across those 2 games, playing 19.24 in the second game. Up until I think it was the All-Star break last year, he was averaging 16 minutes a game. So he legit could add 3 minutes a game to his profile. And those minutes come on the top power play, playing all his time next to Jack Hughes, top power play, top line. Like that's really good. And we know how good Jesper Bratt can be. He's done it for a couple of years now. So like, this is a really, really high octane line. Of all the things that looked bad for Toronto last night, it was their penalty kill looked bad. And like, this isn't just me saying that as a Habs fan. Montreal generated, if you work it out to a per 60 rate, 130 shot attempts per 60 minutes was what Montreal's penalty kill last night, or power play last night, worked out to. And that's just at 5-on-4. That doesn't include the 5-on-3 that they had. Like, they were running Toronto around. And Montreal doesn't have a power play that runs teams around like that. I think that says a lot more about the Toronto penalty kill than it does about the Montreal power play. One game, they can turn around quickly, but like we said on yesterday's show, this is a Toronto penalty kill that was in the bottom 10 last year, and then they come out of the gate and they look like that. I think there are still a lot of questions to how good that penalty kill is actually going to be. So New Jersey one is, yes, they are absolutely in play here. 21,500, 23.5% top two stack percentage. It leads the way, perfectly correlated, all on the top line. Meyer and Hughes like to shoot. Like you said, it could be the third string goalie. Like, I think Dennis Hildeby is actually supposed to be like a half decent prospect. But again, this is still, I think there's a gap between Dennis Hildeby and what should be Joseph Woll. So yeah, I do like New Jersey one here. There's the only line that I would like full on target. I think Hischier, Mercer, and Tatar is kind of interesting just because I don't have a lot of faith in that Toronto second line. They didn't look like, I think that's the one line that to me didn't look very good last night. That line over the last, because they played together a couple of years ago when Tatar was there. In their time together, like 38 shots for, 26 against per 60 minutes, 5-on-5. They're really good. I'm not huge on playing just one guy off the top power play unit, but like Mercer got a lot of ice time in Europe. So like if you want to do like a Hischier, Mercer 2-man or something like that, I think that's perfectly fine. But yeah, New Jersey, I think, is in a great spot here. Obviously, that's why they have a 3.5 total. I do think there's merit to going back to Toronto one. Like, they got a lot of ice time last night. I think, like, not only did Marner Matthews get like around 22 minutes, but like Matthew Nyes was at like 19.5 minutes last night. And I honestly thought he looked like the best Toronto forward on the ice last night as well. And I think he had 4 shots on goal. Like, he did look really good. And we thought like he might take a step forward this year and help that line out quite a bit. Like, this line is under $19,000. Like, that is super, super cheap for that line. They are a line. Like, I would rather play Toronto one here tonight than Ottawa one. Let's put it that way. So I kind of like Toronto one here, like going back to the well. They're going to be single digit ownership. This is a line that can put up 3 or 4 goals on any team in the league. And I agree with you. I think people are going to kind of stay away from them, at least the ones that played them last night. I like both top lines best in this game. This isn't a game where I'm digging down to the second and third lines. Really, I'd rather play New Jersey, but I think there is a lot of merit to going back to Toronto here.
Yeah. Quick Party says Toronto media expecting Stellaris. It makes sense. He's from New Jersey. It is early enough in the season, and I don't think Woll's injury is serious, so not sure they want to throw Dennis Hildeby out in the Rock in Newark. Utah Soakers with a 2.7 total heading into Long Island. That blows. The Islanders have a 3.2 total. Islanders still with Patrick Waugh. Couple new faces. They're going Bo Horvat, Matty Barzal, Anthony Duclair, Brock Nelson, Kyle Palmieri, Maxime Cat Noises, Blackoff, and the third line is whatever. Utah going Clayton Keller, Schmaltz, Hayton, Genther, Cooley, McBain, Doan, Krause, Michelli. Now, interesting notes for the Islanders here. Kind of important. After Patrick Waugh took over, they would send out Horvat and Barzal against middle six. Now, from a line matching perspective, that doesn't change much. But what it does change is they're most likely going to avoid the Sergachev-Dursey pairing, which looked really good in their home opener. They'll get the second pair of Kessler, whatever his name is, and Valimaki, which could be a decent pair, honestly. That third pair of Cole and Chunky Boy Vladimir, whatever his name is, might not be great. I don't have his name in front of me. I just know it's like Vladimir Klaunchankov or something like that.
I think it's Kolyachonok, but pretty close.
Yeah, Chonker. But yeah, this is why I can't get real jobs. This is a real job, but Let's move on. I do really like the Islanders' top line here. Horvat, Barzal, Duclair. They're going to, like I said, they're going to avoid Sergachev and Dursey. They're coming in right around their top two stack percentage at 6% ownership. You get at least two of the guys on the power play. I'm not 100% sure what Wah is going to be doing on the power play. He did have there. I don't know if it's going to be, Brock Nelson back there, Duclair back there again. But I do really like the Islanders' top line here. The second line is fine. They're also probably going to avoid that top pairing. They're a little bit cheaper, but if you're in a price crunch, I think the Islanders' second line is fine, but I'd prefer the Horvat, Barzal, Duclair. On the Utah side, it's a bit interesting because with Wah, they would send out JG Pagel, Anders Lee, and Holmstrom against top comp, and that line just sucks. And, Keller, Schmaltz, and Hayton are fully correlated. They're coming in with absolutely no ownership. And the one issue the Islanders had with Wah last year was their penalty kill sucked. So at 0.5% projected ownership, I don't mind taking a stab at Utah 1 here. They're 17-2. It's not price prohibitive. Yeah, they're more expensive than the Islanders' top line. So, in a single entry, push comes to shove, I'm going to take the home team who costs less to have a higher top 2 stack percentage. Yes. But if I'm making even 3 to 5 lineups, 10 lineups, the more lineups I'm getting to, I will take a shot on the Utah top line. I think a Genther one-off is fine. I even think, that third line as a filler is fine. But again, it's in the same spot where I'd rather just go to the Islanders too in that game. So Utah just feels like a little bit more of an MME play where the home team has a higher total. They're in a good spot. So I do like the Islanders.
Yeah, I do like the Islanders here as well. I wrote up Bo Horvat in the picks article, again, free to read over at stochastic.com. 3.3 goals per 60 minutes at 5-on-5 with Horvat and Barzal on the ice last year. And after Patrick Waugh was hired, he didn't add a ton of ice time, but it was like an extra 40 seconds a game. It got him over 20 minutes a game in ice time after Patrick Waugh got there. Listen, we're Utah enthusiasts, let's say. We both think Utah has a chance of making the playoffs this year. They still give up 11 high danger shot attempts against the Blackhawks. And what I note in that article is the league average last year was 11.8. So Chicago's probably going right back to the draft lottery, and he basically gave up a league average amount of shot attempts against them when they were on the road. That doesn't tell me that this is going to be a high-end defensive team or anything like that. Again, it's just one game, but there are a lot of new faces and moving pieces in the Utah lineup. So maybe it'll just take some time for it to come together. And Utah, their big problem last year was the penalty kill. That Islanders top line is perfectly correlated on the power play. Horvat, Barzal, Duclair, 16,600 at home. Perfectly correlated, basically coming in bang on their ownership. I kind of like it. I agree with you. I do like the Islanders top line here. Tsiplikov, I don't know how long he lasts on the top power play unit, but he's not a nothing guy. He was the top European free agent available this summer. That was kind of what I read about him. And he's been able, at least in training camp, he's in preseason, he was able to translate the game coming over from Europe onto the NHL ice. So I think he has a chance to last there. Palmieri and Nelson on power play 2 just doesn't really do a whole lot. What I will say is that Brock Nelson, he's been one of the top even strength goal scorers in the league over the last 2 years. Same even strength goals per 60 minutes as Jack Hughes over the last 2 years. So he doesn't need the power play to come through. But considering that Utah's penalty kill was bad last year, yes, they had a lot of turnover. Maybe it'll be just a lot better, but they still took quite a few penalties last year, 3.2 per game. That's well above the league average. So I like the Islanders top line the best in this game. On the Utah side, I do like the top line here because even though like the penalty kill was like bottom 3 up until Patrick Waugh got hired, and then it improved after Patrick Waugh got hired, and it was still like bottom 7. You know what I mean? Like it still wasn't very good. So perfectly correlated on the power play. The problem is like Utah last year at least didn't draw a lot of power plays, and the Islanders were one of the least penalized teams in the league. Like Utah might only get like 2, maybe 3 power plays here. And like Logan Cooley led the forwards in ice time in the last game. Like it's not a guarantee that it used to be a guarantee that, you know, Schmaltz and Keller, they're playing 19 to 21 minutes a game here tonight. Like I'm not sure that's going to be the case anymore now that they have the depth that they do. Honestly, of the 2 top lines, I think I would rather play the Islanders, but I do think both top lines are definitely in play. I think going back to Genther, Cooley, and McBain is perfectly fine if you need kind of like a lower price stack, because I'm not super concerned about the defense from the Islanders. Middle 6, especially the second line. It's the top lines I like best, but I think it's Islanders 1 is really the only line for me that's in consideration for single entry.
I'm down with that. Pittsburgh Penguins with a 3.1 total heading into Detroit. The Blast Hills have a 3.4 total. He's not there anymore, but he's definitely still there. Like he's in the rafters hiding. Like I don't know what they're doing with their power play units in Detroit. It is sickening. Absolutely sickening what they're doing. They moved DeBrincat off the top power play unit. I believe it is Larkin, Raymond, Kane, Comfer, and Eric Gustafsson. So DeBrincat and Moritz Seider are on the second power play unit. Kind of a scene. That being said, the Penguins looked awful last night. And like whether you want to admit it or not, the Rangers are a much better team than the Wings. They have a much more complete roster. That being said, like if Detroit has a semi-good game, they still should win. You know what I mean? I just wish the power play units were, you know, the top line was fully correlated because Larkin, DeBrincat, Raymond would be fully correlated. They're not. Now, Pittsburgh has a decent penalty kill. You still get 2 of the top 3 guys on the top power play unit. So I'm fine with them at 17-6. They're coming in right around the top 2 stack percentage at 12% projected ownership. I still like them, especially because like the Crosby line didn't look great defensively. The Malkin line didn't look great defensively. The only line that looked decent for Pittsburgh was their third line, and we're not targeting the Detroit bottom 6 on this slate. So, like, I'm fine with Detroit 1 here. You want to go to Detroit 2, like, be my guest. I don't think highly of them. They're going to get run over. Comfort, Kane, Tarasenko might be the worst defensive trio in the league. Like, they're just bunch of black holes, so like I'm out on them. So it would be Detroit 1 for me. Because of how bad Detroit 2 could be defensively, yeah, I might take some stabs on Malkin, Bunting, Raquel. They at least have a good sample together. Like the Rangers just have a really, really good top 6. They have Igor. They have a good defense. So like Detroit middle 6 is not the Rangers middle 6. I don't have issue going back to Malkin, Bunting, and Raquel here, but my favorite is Detroit 1.
Yeah, I do like Detroit 1 as well. I wrote them up in the picks article today. What I noted was that beyond the power play at 5-on-5, they were just lights out. DeBrincat, Larkin, and Raymond, 70 shot attempts, 35 shots, 4.5 goals per 60 minutes of 5-on-5 last season. And Alex DeBrincat, his points per minute at 5-on-5 overall, went up 72% when he was playing with Dylan Larkin as opposed to playing with literally any other center that they have. It's the problem with the Detroit Red Wings. They have one good center. That's it. So I kind of want to take advantage of DeBrincat, Larkin, and Raymond as long as they have them. Here's the thing with Pittsburgh is like you say some people don't want to admit some things. I think people don't want to admit that Crosby's not a good defensive center anymore. Like the guy's 38 years old, turning 38 this season. It's really hard to still. Yeah, it's hard to be a high-end player at both ends of the ice at that age. Like almost no one does it. There's a reason why most guys retire by like the time they're 35. Even Joe Thornton, by the time he got to like 38, 39 years old, it was like, well, time to move him down to the third line and play him 14 minutes. The reason why Crosby succeeded last year is because they could outscore their defensive issues. But now there's no Brian Rust and there's no Jake Gensel. I'm not sure that they can outscore their defensive issues. So I do like Detroit 1 here going up against the Crosby line. Like maybe Raquel, if they move Raquel up, which I think they do, helps because the numbers with Raquel have been a little bit better over the last couple of years. But I don't have a lot of faith in Anthony Beauvillier. I can tell you that much. So even though the Brink has been booted to the second power play unit, I think this is more a great 5-on-5 matchup than a power play matchup for the Detroit top line. And given the lack of depth on the team, I think like they're all in line to play close to 20 minutes. So I really do like Detroit 1 here. If you want to go down to Detroit 2, because technically Detroit 2 does have 2 guys on it from the top power play unit in Comfer and Kane. But I want the shooters on this team. Kane does shoot some, but the shooters are DeBrincat and Larkin. 2 out of the Larkin and Raymond on the top power play, top 2 stack coming in bang on in their ownership. I think they're eminently playable here tonight. I do like Detroit 1. On the Pittsburgh side, I don't want to play them, but they're not that expensive. And especially like with Raquel there over Drew O'Connor, it's not that much more in your line. It's actually a $400 savings. Sorry. So Crosby, Rickard Raquel, Anthony Beauvillier is only $14,300, 2 out of the 3 on the top power play unit. Detroit was not a good defensive team last year. They were like how Crosby succeeded by outscoring their defensive problems. That's what Detroit did last year. They outscored their defensive problems. It's not like they, limited goals against or anything. Penalty kill wasn't good. 5-on-5 wasn't good. Pittsburgh can bounce back. I don't mind Pittsburgh 1 here. I think they're definitely playable. But Detroit 1 is my favorite line in this game. I will say Pittsburgh 3 is kind of interesting to me for the reason that Eller, Puljujarvi, and McGroarty were Pittsburgh's best line last night. And I don't think it was necessarily that close. And that Detroit depth is just terrible. I don't know what else to say. Like Andrew Kopp, Michael Rasmussen, Joe Veleno, Christian Fischer, holy hell, these are bad. These are not good players. And if Pittsburgh's third line can play tonight like they did last night, I think they can get on the board here. Like if you're using a super expensive Florida stack or something like that, I think there's merit to playing like a 2-man Puljujarvi, McGroarty, Eller, Puljujarvi, something like that. So I think Pittsburgh 3 is some sort of 2-man to go with a super expensive stack elsewhere is in play, but it's Detroit 1 I like best in this game.
Yeah, and Yari looked awful last night. Nedeljkovic is on IR. Could be Joel Blomqvist making his NHL debut. I mean, he was a second-round pick in 2020, but goalies are just wild creatures, and you just don't know what you're going to expect if he does end up starting. Can't be much worse than Yari last night, but guess we'll find out. Dallas Stars with a 3.1 total heading into Smashville. The Predators have a 3 total. This is a fun game. These are always fun games. Nashville and Dallas. Forsberg, O'Reilly, Nyquist, and the second line of Stamkos, Marchessault, and Tommy Novak. Dallas going with Robertson, Hintz, Stankoven, Duchesne, Marchman, Sagan, Wyatt Johnston, Ben Dodonov. Maverick Bourque is out. That's probably why you see Wyatt Johnston centering the third line here tonight. One thing that you do notice about this game, if you are a premium member, is there is not a lot of ownership here. Now, I get it. From a Nashville perspective, going against Dallas is not ideal. Now, Tanev did go on to Toronto, so that second pair is a bit weaker. They still have Esa Lindell, who is very good defensively, and that top pair obviously is just disgusting with Heiskanen and Harley. Okay, Pavelski's gone. You take Pavelski off that top line with Robertson and Hintz, and their numbers are just ridiculous. Now, their numbers are the best with Wyatt Johnson there, but I still think they're going to be very good with Stankov in there. He is a very good playmaker and passer that just perfectly fits into that line. So while I want Wyatt Johnson there, I think Stankov and being there is going to be good. And I'm fine with them. I'm also fine with Duchesne, Marchman, Sagan. Like, listen, they were our darlings last year for a while. They just, they played well. They got their minutes. And that middle six for Nashville, I don't think is going to be very good defensively. But the line that I am most interested in is Johnston, Ben, Dadonov. Now, I wish Dadonov wasn't there. He is the new boat anchor now that Pavelski has moved on. But you do get Johnston and Ben on the top power play unit. You do get middle six matchups. Like, I have no faith that Novak, Stamkos, Marchessault are going to be anything of a threat defensively. No. Evangelista, Sissons, Tomasino. No. You know what I mean? So, like, Wyatt Johnston, we were talking before the show. We both agreed that Wyatt Johnston may see the most minutes of anyone on Dallas. Nashville's penalty kill is bad. Now they did add Brady Shea. That should help a little bit on the penalty kill, but Saros is a little bit nicked up. I don't know if he got confirmed or not, but even if it is Saros, I do like that Dallas third line. They're 12,200. They're coming in with 1% ownership. You can leave Dadonov off if you want. You can go like Johnston, Ben. You can even add in somebody if you want, but I think that is my favorite line on Dallas. On the Nashville side, like, you want to go play with the new toys, Steven Stamkos, be my guest. Like, I don't have any interest in Nashville really here other than Nashville won an MME.
Yeah, I do like the Dallas side a little bit better here. Like, Stankov and some of his micro stats last year were really good, so it's not like he just produced points kind of luckily. It's like he had good rates of scoring chances, good rates of assists on scoring chances. Like, there was stuff like that he did even in just a 24-game sample that looked really, really good. And it's one of those things, like, if it was just somebody getting called up from the AHL because they needed a body and he had a good 24 games, I wouldn't think much about it. But it's the fact, like, he was probably the AHL MVP at the time that he was getting called up. Like, this is a highly touted dual threat prospect. Like, I think he's going to mesh really well with Hintz and Robertson. There's no ownership coming in on them. 1.6% against a 3.4% top two stack. Like, the problem with playing Dallas, like we talked about it a lot last year, and we'll mention it now, is like they do spread out the ice time, right? It's like you could see like 10 of their forwards skate between 13 and a half and 18 minutes or something like that. Maybe Johnston gets up to 19, and then they have one guy on the fourth line who's not a penalty kill to play like 10 or 11. But like, most guys will play fairly similar minutes. But the problem with that last year was when they were priced like 19,500 and playing 17 or 18 minutes. Priced at 16,100 as a line is a lot more reasonable. I'm not worried about any of the Nashville lines from a defensive perspective. Like, the Nashville top line is probably going to be their best defensive line, and it was league average last year. And I don't think the defense got it, at least at 5-on-5, got any better, getting rid of McDonough and bringing in Brady Shea. Plus, UC Saros isn't starting. And like, Wedgwood's not a bad goalie. Like, he's not Dan Vladar or anything like that. But UC Saros still is one of the top 6 goalies in the league. Like, it's still a drop-off in net. I really do like Dallas one here. I'm wearing my Dallas jersey specifically because of it. I will also say, if you need a filler stack, I do like Johnston, Ben, and Dadonov. 1.4% top two stack, 1% ownership, 12,200. Johnston, Ben, Dadonov on the top, or Johnston and Ben on the top power play unit. Wyatt Johnston led their forwards in ice time in the playoffs last year. Like, this is a second-year player who led their forwards in ice time per game. And I think he led them in ice time per game over like the last 6 weeks of the season. So it was like a 2.5-month stretch where he led this team in ice time, or at least their forwards. Like, there's a good chance, even though he's, quote, on the third line, he plays like 19 19-15 tonight or something like that. You know what I mean? So I really do like Johnson, Ben, and Dadonov if you're looking for a filler stack. Dallas one is probably my favorite in this game. Nashville 2, I'm not – if this were a better matchup, like, you know, if this were Utah going into Nashville, let's say, I would probably have a lot more interest in the Nashville top 6, but Dallas is a really good defensive team. Dallas doesn't take a lot of penalties either. They were below average in that regard last year. So, listen, I think Nashville, both their top 2 lines are in play, and there's no ownership coming in on them. I have no issue playing them whatsoever, especially if you're 150 maxing or something like that, and you want to get those 1% and 2%, those 1% lines in your lineup and have played 3, 4, 5% of them. I think that's perfectly fine. I think if I'm single entering here, I do prefer the Dallas side a little bit. I do like both the Robertson line and the Johnson line, depending on what you want to do with the other stack.
Yeah, I just wish it was anyone but Dadonov. Oh, well. Columbus Blue Jackets, the 2.5 total heading into Minnesota. The Wild have a 3.6. Welcome to the chalk. Welcome to the chalk. Kirill Kaprizov, Matt Zuccarello, Marco Rossi, 22% projected ownership. Joe Eriksson Ek, Matthew Boldy, Marcus Johansson, 10% projected ownership. No ownership coming in on Columbus. Their most expensive line is their top line: Sean Monahan, Kirill Marchenko, Yegor Chinnikov at 12,400. Finn Tilly, James Van Riemsdyk, and Kevin LeBanc, 9,400. Sillinger, Kent Johnson, 8,300. If you thought the Wings power play units were a mess, the Columbuses are just disgusting. They're going to split units. It doesn't matter. They stink. Although the Minnesota Wild penalty kill wasn't very good last year. Spurgeon is back, though. Even when he was back last year, it didn't improve that much. So, is it Kent Johnson night? let's pump the brakes. Let's talk about Minnesota here. They are the most highly owned line on the board. Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Rossi. Kaprizov and Zuccarello are on the top power play unit. Eriksson Ek and Boldy also on the top power play unit, with Brock Faber. I'm not sure how I want to attack this, right? Because it is both a very good matchup 5-on-5 and on the penalty kill. I almost just want to just go like Joe Eriksson Ek, Matthew Boldy, Kaprizov, and call it a day. Zuccarello, like leaving off Zuccarello could be a problem. Marco Rossi at his price, leaving him off could be a problem. I want power play guys. You get Eriksson Ek and Boldy at even strength together. Kaprizov is the straw that stirs the drink on that team. I think stacking either of the full lines is fine. Just there's so many ways to get difference on issue. But like I'm talking about my single entry, right? I can't put both, Minnesota 1 into lineup, Minnesota 2 into lineup, because I'm only making one lineup. And I don't want to Josh stack on a 9-game slate. That is just egregious. So I would do something with the power play guys, and I would make sure to have Kaprizov in there. So even if you get a 3-man combo that they all have high ownership, that specific 3-man combo might not be highly as owned. That's just probably how I would attack a Minnesota in this high ownership side. On the Columbus side, like these power play units are just a disaster. I'd probably take a stab on Fantilli, JVR, LeBanc. That is the most random assortment of players in the history of the NHL. But like they're 9,400. Fantilli is obviously a highly touted prospect. James Van Riemsdyk, I think, would be a nice compliment to him on that line, even though he hasn't been able to skate since 2009. Kevin LeBanc, his issue isn't offensively. He's a good offensive player. He's just Charmin Ultrasoft on the defensive end, but he fits right in on that Columbus team. So I would probably take a stab on Fantilli, JVR, LeBanc, but it is a Minnesota game for me.
Can we appreciate what the Columbus Blue Jackets are doing with their defense core?
Oh,
okay. This is a team that gave up the second most goals per minute last year. The only team that was worse was San Jose. Okay, second worst for goals against last season. They obviously Werenski's coming back. They bring back Provorov, bring back Christensen, bring back Severson, bring back Goodbranson. The one change they make is adding Jack Johnson. Okay. The only team worse than them defensively last year was San Jose. And the big addition on the blue line is fucking Jack Johnson.
I mean, they're tanking. What do you want from them?
What the fuck is going on? Listen, the website HockeyViz, it gives you player values over their entire career. Once since 2007, Jack Johnson has been better than a third pair defenseman, and he hasn't even been a third pair defenseman in 7 years. This is the one addition they make to the blue line. Here, the only reason to not want to play Minnesota tonight is ownership. That's the only reason. I think you can make an argument. I mean, I guess we'll see with San Jose. You could probably make an argument that Columbus is the worst team in the league now. That's just the way. It's really unfortunate that they're in this position. It's part of it is just not their doing whatsoever. Obviously, with the passing of Johnny Gaudreau over the summer, Boone Jenner gets hurt. Found out today he's going to be out 5 to 6 months. Dmitry Voronkov is hurt. Like, those are three of probably their top 6 forwards. But this was a terrible defense core last year, and they ran it back plus Jack Johnson. Like, they're just not trying to get better. Not this season anyway. So, like, this might, depending on the improvements that San Jose makes, this might be the worst team in the league this season. So it's just a tremendous matchup at all strengths for Minnesota. I wrote up Kirill Kaprizov in the picks article. Again, the only reason to not play Minnesota is their ownership. 22% on the top line, 10% on the second line. I think you're going to see, Matt Zuccarello is the highest projected. Matt Zuccarello, Kirill Kaprizov, and Marco Ross are all projected over 20% individually. Jared Spurgeon is probably going to have a lot of ownership because he's $2,500 on DraftKings. Like, all you have to decide is whether you want to play like it, depending on your contest, anywhere between a 20 and 30% Minnesota top line or not. And that's basically it. Like, do you want to take that chance that, maybe Minnesota wins 5-1, but, Ryan Hartman gets 2 goals, maybe Kaprizov gets 1, maybe Jonas Brodin gets a goal, someone gets an empty net, like that type of thing. But this is the best matchup. I think the best matchup on the board, especially with Minnesota at home tonight, is just a matter of whether you want to choke on the ownership. On the Columbus side, like, I agree with you. If I play anything out of this game, it would be either Fantilli or Van Riemsdyk, like maybe a cheap 2-man between the two of them. I think Fantilli's he rates highest for me. On the Columbus side, there's nothing I'm stacking out of this. It's basically just like a one-off Adam Fantilli. Basically it. Like, even Chinnikov and Marchenko at around 4K on DraftKings, I think, considering how bad this team is it's basically like a fair price. So with the split power play units, thinned out group, terrible defense core, if you want to play Zach Werenski, he'll project well because he plays a ton of minutes, can put up shots and blocks. I think that's fine. But for me, it's probably just Fantilli or bust.
Yeah, you got to appreciate the Devils. Bring Kevin Labanc into Prague on a PTO, scores a hat trick in the preseason finale, then releases them from the PTO in Prague. Find your way home, Kevin. But Columbus did sign him to the 1-year $800K deal or whatever it was. St. Louis Blues with a 3.3 total heading into San Jose. The Sharks have a 2.7 total. I don't dread talking about the Sharks too much as I did last year. Like, they actually have a fun top 6 this year. It is Tyler Toffoli, William Eklund, Macklin Celebrini, and then Will Smith, Fabian Zetterlund, Michael Granlund. They're very cheap. The top line is 11,400. The Granlund line is 12,100. They're going to get a Blues team that is a mess. aren't very good on either end of the ice, partly because of their defiance, I will say, to make Pavel Buchnevich work at center. I don't think they really have a choice because they have Braden Shen as their third line center. And if you move Braden Shen up into your top six, you're just going to get absolutely nuked. That line, the Shen Joseph Kapanen line, got absolutely run over by Seattle, and they still played the most at even strength than any other line on Seattle or on St. Louis. The question is, do you want to play Macklin Celebrini line here tonight? Because they're coming in at 11,400, almost double digit ownership, and they fit with anybody, really. Like, you're going to see a lot of San Jose with everybody. Now, it is a good matchup. Celebrini is a little bit different, you would say, to like Leo Carlson. Is Macklin Celebrini is a shooter. To Foley being there, he has, I think, almost 50 goals in the past 2 seasons. William Eklund had a pretty good season last year playing with, God knows who. I do like the line. It's just a question of, do you want to play them tonight in Macklin's NHL debut at double digits when they fit easily with 20% Minnesota 1? You know what I mean? So, like, it's just a question of how you want to put your lineup together. In a vacuum, I like them. I want to play them at some point when they have a little bit of positive leverage. While I get there tonight, they're in consideration for me. The second line, I don't like as much. Granlund, Zetterlund, Will Smith. I think they're fine. Like, at that point, they're coming in at 7%. I'd rather just play Toffoli, Eklund, Celebrini. Like, give me your best guys. It's the Sharks. You know what I mean? Like, let me play the best guys there. On the Blues side, like, let's not pretend like the Sharks got better defensively. They added Jake Wallman, which will help offensively. It's not going to help defensively. They're still a bad defensive team. They had a somehow semi-decent penalty kill, but like, meh. I do like the Kyrou Buchnevich Texier line here tonight, 15,600 coming in right at the top 2 stack. I just wish they would load up a top line. Like, if you want to play Thomas and Neighbors, fine, but like, their ice time wasn't great. I'd rather just go to their best player, which is Kyrou. Buchnevich is on the top power play with them. Texier won't kill you. So St. Louis 2, San Jose 1 for me.
Yeah, I agree with you on San Jose 1. Toffoli, Eklund, Celebrini. Like, I wrote up Celebrini in the picks article. He's only $3K on DraftKings. He's a lot more expensive on FanDuel. I think he's 6,100, so it's actually a decision over there. But like, $3K on DraftKings. You don't want to overhype a rookie too much, but honestly, Celebrini is a guy that in 25 years should be in the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? Like, there's just no guys that just do what he does very few guys that do what he does at his age. He's comparable to Connor Bedard. Like, honestly, that's how good he is. He's not necessarily his style, but probably his production upside. So Celebrini, Eklund, Toffoli, really like them. I don't mind Granlund, Zetterlund, and Smith. The reason is like, I think, even though we have them denoted as San Jose 2, that they could end up with the most ice time, at least Granlund. Like, it's kind of like that Dallas thing where Wyatt Johnson might end up with the most ice time. Like, I could see Granlund finishing with like 20 and a half minutes.
It's a fair bet.
You know what I mean? While the other guys are like 18 or something like that. But at 11,400, Toffoli, Eklund, Celebrini, I do like them. Even if they are 9 to 10%. Like, St. Louis, sure, they won game 1 against Seattle. They were getting run out of the rink. They had 5 good minutes where they scored those 3 goals and won the entire game in those 5 minutes. Jordan Binnington saved them. It's like Montreal and Toronto last night. I'm a Montreal fan, glad that they won. Toronto ran over them for about 80% of that game. St. Louis didn't look good. The only line that I think looked half decent, honestly, was the Thomas line. So I think that's the one spot I would disagree with you in this game is like, I don't mind Thomas, Neighbors, and Holloway. Like, I do like Holloway. I think he's actually like a decent player. And Robert Thomas can drive a line. You know what I mean? So I do worry about ice time, but you get 2 out of the 3 guys on the top power play unit. San Jose's penalty kill is not very good last year. I honestly don't mind Thomas, Neighbors, Holloway here. If you want to take off Holloway and add Kyrou or add Buchnevich for some additional power play stacking, I think that's perfectly fine. But for me, it's the Thomas line on the St. Louis side, but it's the Celebrini line I really like from San Jose. I think they're even at 9% or whatever. They're a good filler line here tonight.
Yeah. Just from the Blues, like I want their best goal scorer, and that's Kyrou. But again, like don't give Shen and Kapanen, 18, 19 minutes. Maybe you improve. Maybe you don't. Yeah, Celebrini one-off, I think it's fine on DraftKings. You kind of want to bring someone along for the ride, but it's fine. He's no Matvei Mikov. Well, we might not see Matvei Mikov until like January because the Flyers don't play until like who knows when the Flyers start playing. That is the 9-game slate. I was about to go to the next game, and there was no game. Before we move on to defensemen and goalies, again, they play tomorrow, right? It's been a week for the guy here. But before we move on, if you missed the $5 or 5 days for $1 promo, you can still sign up. Click the link in the chat. If you go through the link, shoot me a message. I can get you a code for some discounts. So just shoot me a DM. We'll work something out. Always take feed pics. Defenseman. my inbox is going to be an absolute gong show tonight. I love it. Top of the board, we have Roman Josi, 7,900, Zach Werenski, 6,900, Rasmus Dahlin, 6,400, Charlie McAvoy, 6,300, Mike Matheson, Douglas Hamilton, Noah Dobson, Eric Carlson, Sean Durzi. Sean Durzi is still way more expensive than Sergachev. It is kind of hilarious. $900 more. Like, okay, you want to play Josi, sure, it's fine. But like, I think the guys in the best matchups here are Charlie McAvoy, who's still on the top power play, Dougie Hamilton at 6,100. I think Dobson's fine at 6,000. It's when he gets like to 7,600 and you don't know if he's going to play 20 minutes or 27 minutes. That's when you kind of run into issues. But at 6,000, I think it's fine. And then, Sergachev at 4,900 is still fine. There are two power play quarterbacks who are min-priced. Jared Spurgeon is also min-priced. I'll let Cliffy talk about those guys. But top of the board, I think Charlie McAvoy is my favorite.
Yeah, I have McAvoy number one as well. Hamilton. Josi and Werenski, they're certainly playable here. I think especially where there are so many sub 3K defensemen that are in play. Like you can put, Werenski with one of those $2,500 defensemen and still pay under 10K for you two defensemen. So like, I think he can get away with it, but it's just there. Like, I really do like the matchup for McAvoy. I do like the matchup for Hamilton. So like, I kind of agree with you there. In the mid price range, I really did like Cedar up until about 9:30 a.m. Eastern this morning when their morning skate was going on. Justin Falk certainly back in play again against San Jose. Miro Heiskanen, Morgan Riley in that low 5K range. Probably Riley ahead of Heiskanen, but both certainly in play. Jake Sanderson, Brock Faber, everybody in Minnesota is in play here tonight. That's just kind of what it is. Mikhail Sergachev, Jake Wallman, those guys in the mid-price range. For the cheap guys, like Los Angeles, you have Jordan Spence at 3K, Brant Clark, power play 1, 2,500. Like Jordan Spence, like Los Angeles is probably going to run their power play like 60-40. So Brant Clark is quote power play 1, but I bet Jordan Spence actually leads the team in ice time and has secondary power play minutes. So I think Spence is absolutely in play at 3,000. Esa Lindell, I don't know why he's priced where he is, honestly, but Esa Lindell is 2,700. Jared Spurgeon is min-priced. I think Hudson played like 18 minutes or something last night for Montreal, so I think 2,800 is fine. Jonathan Kovacevic got some pretty good ice time for New Jersey, and he is 2,500 as well. So there are a handful of $2,500 defensemen, and you don't necessarily play Brant Clark and Jared Spurgeon. That's perfectly fine, but you don't have to play them because I think there are other options.
Yeah, Eric Gustafsson also min-price running the top power play. He actually is good offensively.
Yeah.
He just lacks defensively. He'll fit right in Detroit. Let's talk a little bit about goalies. Top of the board, Swayman, Gustafsson, Joel Hofer, Semyon Varlamov, Jacob Markstrom. I'm a Gustafsson guy. And it's fine tonight. I think he's fine. The 3 goalie rotation is really going to bug me there. Swayman, I don't like 8,500. If he was like 7,900, I say go for it. But like 8,500 in GPPs, you need a shutout there. And he literally hasn't had a camp. So I don't know what to expect there. You want to play him in cash, fine. But top of the board is Gustafsson and probably Markstrom. I don't particularly love spending up for goalie here tonight. I like Jake Ottinger at 7,800. We're going to get a ton of shit when he gives up 5 goals on 31 shots, but I do like Ottinger. Ville Husso, Pittsburgh's on a back-to-back. I've always been a Husso guy. Detroit has 78 goalies that can start, but he's starting here tonight. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen should see fair shot volume. If you want to get spicy, Linus Ullmark, 7,400. But I think if I'm spending down all the way down to the bottom here, like if any goalie starting under 7K who's going to see volume is in play, so like Caden Primo at 6,700, I think is a fine GPP flyer. Again, with pricing being so soft, I don't know if it's necessary. So like I don't know if I'm going to go below Connor Ingram. If Connor Ingram or Mackenzie Blackwood, it would probably be Ingram for me.
Yeah, Ingram is the cheap guy that I'm considering here tonight. Blackwood's definitely in play. Like he had some pretty big games last year. My issue is like St. Louis is just not a shot volume team. Like even against San Jose, they might struggle to put up 30 shots. You know what I mean? So I think Ingram was at 7,200 is the cheaper guy that I'm considering. Ville Husso is really. I hate saying I like a Detroit goalie. It just feels bad, but
they have so many goalies.
Yeah, but it's been a long time now that Pittsburgh's had trouble scoring, but not necessarily trouble generating shots. So it's like as long as he doesn't give up 4 or more, I think he should be okay. So I like Husso at 7,700. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen 7,600. Like the Kings, basically after November last year, were like a bottom 5 offensive team in the league. But like Pittsburgh, they were generating a lot of shots. They don't improve their goal scoring. It's not a bad matchup for UPL. So I think Husso, UPL, and Ingram are the 3 goalies that I really like. You know, you can just go for the win and go for the shutout for Minnesota. Like there is definitely shutout equity for Gustafsson here, but I do think that there are some cheaper options definitely in play.
Yeah, if you just want to correlate with your stacks, I think that's fine in large field tournaments. But again, I'm generally not a spend up guy. Did use Igor last night, but it's rare for me to go above 8K. We might be back tomorrow. It depends on the GPPs. If they put out decent ones, we probably will be. If they're absolute crap, maybe we won't be. We'll know probably by 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll put out a tweet or something. We'll let you know. But who are you liking for your hat trick pick?
Why not? First game in the NHL, debut against a bad team, Macklin Celebrini. I do like it.
Lucas Raymond.
I mean, it's a good spot for it.
Like Lucas Raymond was in the doghouse like Josh Norris was for at the start of last season. No player has climbed the corporate ladder more than Lucas Raymond. But yeah, appreciate you guys tuning in again. If you missed out on the deal, click the link in the chat. You can slide into my DMs on Discord or Twitter. I can get you a discount code if you can show me you go through the link, and you get access to everything and the premium Discord, which is great. You get the daily deposit frostback goalie tool sponsored by Stochastic. It's really not a Stochastic tool. It's just basically him playing a joke on himself on who to fade. He got an Igor shutout last night, and Stewie Skinner got absolutely lambasted. So that is a classic Frostback night. But thank you guys again for tuning in. We might see you tomorrow. We'll definitely see you Saturday. Have a great night, everybody. Let's win some money.
Let's go, Sharks.
Tiburones.